Welcome to NBA Game of the Week podcast. I'm Nolan. I'm here with George and Pietro. And this week, we're going to talk about Blazers Pelicans. It's Blazers at Pelicans. It's on November 10th. Blazers won 106-95 without Lillard or Nurkic. Leading scorers on both sides, Jeremy Grant with 27, Zion with 29. So coming out of this game, the Pels were 6-6 and the Blazers were 9-3. It's a pretty interesting one. George, what was you want to start with biggest takeaways from the game?
Biggest takeaways. So yeah, no, I mean, watching this game, first time I've seen both, well, not both squads. Second time I saw New Orleans this year, first time I saw Portland. Portland's pretty good, guys. I think they're hot start. They're 8-3, 9-3. Maybe even at this recording, some more games have been played, but starting out really hot. I think they're going to be a top 4 seed in the West at the end of the season.
So I was pretty shocked that the Blazers are actually doing as good as they have been, because last year they were pretty trash last year, right?
They had a lot of injuries last year, but they struggled for sure.
Dame missed probably like 50 games last year, I think.
So I think we're probably going to talk about it, but McCollum, I think, is probably the best player on the Pelicans. Like, solid, one of the best, like, number 2 players previously when he was with the Blazers. So he's gone. And then I don't think that they really got any free agents. They got Josh Hart back as part of the trade. And all of a sudden, Chauncey Billups, I think, has them I don't know if it's that they're out there and they're hustling more, but it just looks like the whole team is giving way more effort than they were last year. And I think it's a lot from role players like Josh Hart's, your Justice Winslow's. I forgot Jeremy Grant is on the team now. That's a big piece from last year, but he's like an amazing, like, versatile piece who I think has made like a really big step forward this year from years in the past. So I liked what I saw. I don't think that I liked what I saw from this game.
Yeah, I was going to say to George, to your point, we'll talk about this later when we get to outlook of the season. I don't think I agree that they're going to be top 4 in the West, but they're solid. I mean, their over under for wins from Vegas this year was 39.5. I think they're going to beat that pretty easily. I mean, they seem like they're going to be somewhere in the 40s. My big takeaway from this game, so I'm sure you guys watched this too, but they played zone for a lot of the game defensively, and they're 6th in defensive rating, like, at the time when I was doing my prep for this. And I'm not 100% sure if it's like a gimmick. Like, I don't know if that can sustain all season, because I'm not sure that they have amazing individual defenders. It seems like
do they play zone all the time, or is that just because they dared the Pelicans to knock down shots and they couldn't?
It's a great question. I don't know. This is the first game I've watched from them, so I'm not sure if that's like a regular part of their defensive scheme, or if they just, to your point, maybe just it was matchup dependent. They just felt like with the Pels, they had an advantage playing zone, but they played it a lot and it worked really well. So, I mean, what do you guys think on that? Do you think it's a gimmick, or do you think that can actually work for them?
Yeah, you can't play zone in the NBA consistently and then make it through the playoffs and then think that you're going to win it. I think if you want to give your defense a rest and you're going to dare the other side to make some shots on you, then I think it's a solid strategy. And I think it obviously worked for the Pelicans, but I don't think you can run a 2-3 zone in the NBA consistently and expect to have results. You're going to have to man up.
Yeah, I mean, right, you are going to have to man up, especially when at the end of the day, like, the playoffs become so ISO heavy. I really don't think going zone against something like that is going to lend itself to success. But it's always good to have stuff in your toolbox, right? Like, it's nice to switch it up, being able to just change the pace of the game when you need to. Just real quick on the upfront, right? I said Portland could finish, top 4 in the West. That's obviously one pending health, but really what I was trying to get at is, like, we've seen years in the past where, like, teams like the Magic start off hot, right? And they always come out like 8-2 out of the gate, and then they end up floundering and like finish with like 25 wins. I don't think that's the case with this Portland team, because, in years past when they've made the playoffs and have been a really good team, they've had CJ McCollum, right, as their number 2. Anthony Simons has given them exactly that production. Essentially in the like stepping up and filling the McCollum shoes, and they finally have a solid third in Jerry Grant essentially to fill. So just want to clarify that with my upfront comments around like the top four. It's just obviously pending health, but I just think it's legit and not a little trend.
Do you
What's up,
think
Pietro?
Simons is better than Jeremy Grant? I think
As a shot creator, I would say so.
offensively, yeah,
Yeah.
maybe. I mean, Jeremy Grant, I feel like he's actually like gotten to become like an underrated player. So he was on the USA team last year, right? And I think a lot of people were clowning him because no one really knew what Jeremy Grant was doing on the NBA team, or the USA team. But I feel like he got clowned so much from that, and then he had that huge contract where he was playing with the Pistons, that I think he's actually underrated now. And for some reason, the Blazers just kind of churn out underrated players that tend to overperform. And I mean, I haven't watched every single game that the Blazers have played this year, but I thought Grant was awesome out there.
Yeah, looking at the splits, he's literally producing what he produced last year for the Pistons in like a career year for him and doing it at a more efficient rate, which is like insane, right? So I think again, he's just great addition.
To me, this is like a tie into the MVP of the game because I thought this was a pretty hard one actually to pick MVP. I don't know if you guys had an easy time for it. I think it has to be probably Simons or Jeremy Grant, but I think they bring different things. Like what I liked about Simons was he didn't shoot well in this game. I think it was 5 for 18, but he has a lot of gravity.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you can see in the fourth quarter, like they were throwing doubles at him in traps just because they were kind of afraid of his shooting or his ability to create shots. And I felt like Jeremy Grant was a lot more like creating from isolation.
Yep.
He took some tough shots. He made some big ones, but I felt like to me, Simons was the MVP of this game. But I think I agree with you, Pietro. I think Jeremy Grant probably is their second best player. I just think he brings a little bit more to the table, like outside of offense. I think he's a solid defender. He's got a lot of length, and like he gives them some good options. Like if they get matched up with I don't know, like an LA Clippers, or if he's going to guard like whoever the best wing player is probably on the other team. So I would go Jeremy Grant, second best player on the team. But I think for this game in particular, I thought Anthony Simons was the MVP of the game. But what did you guys have?
Yeah,
go ahead, George.
Yeah, I was just gonna jump in. I thought it was Grant, and really it was more of like the like just creation on offense, right? You kind of talked about the different things they bring. Simons is great at creating his own shot. He's able to make tough shots, right? Jerry Grant's just able to literally off of those plays from Simons, he'll catch like a kick out from Simons and being able to just be that secondary ball handler, drive a little bit, and then create the defense to collapse a little bit just to get an additional passing lane. Because then you had the other role players like Josh Hart and guys that were like crashing really hard. So thought Grant was MVP just based on the playmaking.
Yeah, I thought Grant too. I mean, I totally get what you're saying though, Nolan. I watched this game again, just the highlights, like the 10-minute version. It felt like every highlight had something to do with Anthony Simons. And then you go and look at the box score and it kind of tells a little bit different of a story. I think Grant is just a boring player. And it sounds derogatory, but it's boring but efficient. So he does the little things. He's like a Swiss Army knife player. So he's out there, he'll hit some shots, he'll make some passes, he'll get rebounds and play some defense, but nothing that he really does ever is like, it wasn't Simons in the dunk contest. Like a few of his highlights were like jumping out of the gym. Jeremy Grant's just not that guy. So I think that I thought Grant played better as a whole for the game, even though he doesn't have the same kind of gravitas I think you said that Simons has.
Well, the box score definitely is on Grant's side. I mean, he was a +20. He had 4 steals, 4 assists, 8 rebounds, shot pretty efficiently from the field. Like he box score wise had a better impact, I think. But I definitely felt like, especially in the second half, Simons was like the focal point of the offense and also of the Pelicans, like how they were trying to guard them. So I think they were both really good. Or not guard them. And my two honorable mentions on the Pelicans, just guys that I really liked. I haven't really watched a lot of Josh Hart. I really like his game. I feel like he's just super solid. He's like one of those guys that could fit on any team. Great decision making, takes good shots, like good enough size to defend in that position. So I liked him a lot. And then Devin Eubanks, I didn't know anything about. And I was like, Drew Eubanks, like super solid. Like he just like did exactly what they wanted him to do. Really good on defense, stayed completely within his game, didn't really take a lot of shots. I just thought his minutes were huge for them. Like without having Nurkic there, like I like those two guys a lot.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I watched the game and didn't even realize that Eubanks was out there.
He didn't do anything on offense. Like he barely touched the ball on offense. Go ahead.
As a former fantasy owner of Drew Eubanks, appreciate just his consistent like 8 and 6 like stat line like all the time. But I'm with you, Nolan. He outplayed like Valanciunas this game, like literally like prevented Valanciunas from doing anything.
Yeah.
And
so that's actually who I had as my least valuable player. I don't know if we're going there yet, but Valanciunas, like I feel like he hit a couple of shots in like the first quarter, and then like I just forgot that he was out there. Yeah. Which is not how Valanciunas should be. He was an all-star last year, wasn't he? Or the year before?
I don't think he's made an all-star game, but he was really good last year. Like he's had a couple of really good seasons. And people have really liked him. I agree. He kind of sucked this game. And
he put up 21 on fucking Vucevic like 2 nights before or whatever. So like he can ball, but yeah, Eubanks like shut him down.
Eubanks did a good job against him. I think one of the hard things, I mean, we'll talk about the Pals, I'm sure, but with Zion and Valanciunas in the game together, they're just really slow. You know, like those are two big, slow guys. So like in the half court offense, like I could see the value of it, but I just feel like, I don't know. I don't feel like they made a good impact on this game. And maybe part of the zone was part of it. Maybe they just couldn't figure out with the zone. But yeah, Eubanks definitely did a good job on him.
Is that the scouting report on Zion that he's slow? I thought he could like really get up and down the court. I think he's just awful at defense, or like he can be great at defense. He's just not.
My impression is that he has a quick first step, like definitely, but I don't think he's like, I didn't find that they had a lot of transition opportunities, the Pelicans. I felt like they were really getting into their half court sets and like they couldn't, like I think if you're playing against a zone, you want to be able to move up and down the floor fast so they can't get set and you can get some mismatches. And I didn't feel like they were able to do that just with like the size of those guys and them not moving up the floor quickly.
Well, in the fourth quarter, Zion was doing his thing. Like I feel like he was pretty silent for the first 3 quarters, and then quarter 4 he started figuring something out, and he scored like 15 points in the fourth quarter, something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it all like netted out to 0 because every time he scored, the Blazers would come down the court, run a pick and roll to match up on Zion, and then just go straight to the basket. But I mean, he figured something out to score some points.
I love how you say he figured something out, because what he did figure out is that he could just blow by everyone with that first step. He's actually catching the ball in the post, faces up, and just goes by him, which I can't wait till that guy develops. And he obviously is skilled, right? But when I say this, like in terms of I can't wait till he develops a skill set, can't wait till he can shoot a little bit, put the ball on the ground, do a little bit of like create his own shot that isn't just brute force. Because he's putting up, what is it? I mean, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I know it's like upper 20s, right? More than 25 points a game. Yeah, and it's just like off of free throws and just like a quick first step, and he has like one counter in the put. Like he has a first step that he could blow by people, and then if you happen to read that, he'll spin to his left hand and essentially like finish there. He has 2 moves, and he puts up 27 a game on it. And
so he's putting up 23 and a half.
Okay,
which is respectable, but like at this point, I feel like Zion should be the primary scorer on the team. And I just feel like in this year's NBA, there's just so many nameless players that are scoring 20 a game. Like Lauri Markkanen is scoring like 22 a game.
Yeah.
So I get it that you're saying we're waiting for Zion to develop and turn into this player. But what is this, year 3 or 4 for him in the league? And I feel like he's
played 96 games, so I'm gonna call that like year 2, but it's technically his like 4th year if you count the year he sat out.
Yeah, it's his 4th year. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, the hype has been so significant around him for so long. He's in a position where he can score a ton of points and really start to make steps to be that guy. And I'm not really seeing it. He's shown flashes of it. I just don't know if he has the work ethic to do it.
It's interesting. I mean, I thought like watching this game, I mean, I felt like he's their best player. I love his efficiency. Like he shoots 56% from the field, like he's like a post player. Like if you think of him as like a post player, he's a really efficient post scorer. And I felt like he was the only thing that was kind of working with their offense. But I do agree that like the hype of him coming in is like, he's going to be like a Luka, LeBron, Giannis level superstar. And I don't think he's there quite yet, or maybe he just doesn't have the supporting cast that makes sense around him. And he's got to work on his defense and conditioning. I mean, I think it's all been talked to death, but for least valuable player for the game, I actually had a two-way tie. I had Ingram and McCollum, which might be a hot take, but I just felt like when I was watching the game, they were not able to break the zone, and they don't really have a point guard. And I felt like those are the two playmakers on the team, and they just weren't really able to get good shots other than just passing it to Zion. Ingram fouled out. CJ didn't shoot well from the floor. And I feel like if you're going to break the zone, like you really need your backcourt to be able to get you good looks. And I didn't feel like they executed on that. So that was my least valuable player for it.
Yeah, Ingram kind of threw me off with that new hairstyle. I was watching the game. It took me a while to know that it was him because he wasn't shots, so it was kind of hard
to do much. He didn't actually do much this game. Like he really, I mean, he was somewhat efficient, but he didn't have a big impact on the game. I didn't feel. I wasn't that impressed with him. And I've seen him play some really good games before, but this wasn't one of them.
At the beginning, I think he knocked down some shots, and then like after those first couple minutes in the first, he kind of faded.
Yeah, I don't think the consistency's there, but like I saw him as a killer the other night against the Bulls. Like in the fourth quarter, he put up like 12, 15 points. And when his shots falling, he's a deadly mid-range guy. But to your point, they couldn't get anything going. Like McCollum, I thought his shots were fine. They just like weren't falling. Ingram, it was a lot of like Ingram, I feel like you have to get him in motion, moving towards the basket to make him really effective. And against the zone, it's hard to do that. You got to find like the open space and then be like ready to make a decision quickly. And so when you're trying to like catch it on the move and going towards the rim, like there's always someone in your way.
I don't know. You're saying that he needs someone else to kind of like set screens and like be in motion to get a shot.
Well, I just think it's a tough matchup against like the zone. ISO. Like he's a fine ISO player, but I think the way they were using him, they were trying to get him in motion, like running towards the hoop. And so a lot of times when he caught the ball, like there's already someone in front of him. And when you're against the zone, you can't really say, all right, clear out, let's match up, right? And just like let me go by this guy. So there's a lot of
in this league against the zone, you got to hit some threes to break that. CJ hit any threes, and he hit 1 3.
He was like 1 for 7 or so. He didn't shoot well this game. He didn't have a good night.
I think the Pelicans hit like 3 threes in total or something. Wasn't it like some?
It's a little. They had 10. 3 of them was from T. Murphy. Do you guys know T. Murphy?
Yeah, Trey Murphy. He's at I think he's a rookie last year. He actually has a pretty nice stroke. He hit some good shots in the game. I like their bench. Their bench was solid. It was the starters. I mean, you can look at the plus minus. Like their bench players were almost all positive. It was the starters who really struggled.
I'm a little disappointed we didn't see any Grand Theft Alvarado.
I know.
During the bench unit minutes this game, but
I know I like his game too. The other thing I had for LVP, and I know they won, but I just wanted to throw this out there. Justice Winslow, he just can't shoot. Like every time he shot the ball, I was like, "This is going to be a brick for sure." I looked up his stats just to make sure like it wasn't like eye test, and he's shooting 39% from the field, 25% from 3. Like that dude just can't shoot. I don't know why he's taking jump shots. It was just like baffling to me. Every time he shot, I was like, "There's no way that's going in."
Did they finish with? Oh, sorry, Pietro. Go ahead.
No. I was going to change back to Zion. I'm looking at some stats here.
Do they finish with Winslow in the lineup like typically?
He played 38 minutes. I don't know if they finished with him in the closing lineup, but he.
I would think Nurkic. Usually gets it.
It would be Nurkic, Grant, Lillard, Simons, and
that's the last spot kind of for grabs, I think, right?
Winslow or Hart, I guess.
Josh
Hart, I thought, or it might be Winslow. Who knows? But either way, definitely an area to upgrade. What were you saying, Pietro, though? You wanted to switch to Zion?
Zion has 23.5 points a game this year. When he was a rookie, it was 22.5 for the season. And then his second year was 27.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know why he doesn't shoot more threes. He shot 1 this game.
Like, it looked good. It looked
good. Like his first NBA appearance, right? Didn't he hit like 3 of them or something? Like,
yeah, I wonder if that's fool's gold though. Maybe it was just like adrenaline. Like, I don't know if he can actually shoot it at a high volume, but it'd be an interesting wrinkle to add to his game. I mean, the truth is he's super effective on offense. Like, I don't think offense is his problem. I feel like it's like, can he impact the game not on offense?
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to have like you have to be so good at offense to be like a one-way star, you know, where if you're not gonna like Trey, I think Trae Young's probably a good example, right? Like he's somebody who doesn't really play a ton of defense, but like he's also making plays for other people too, you know, whereas Zion's really like you go to him in the post, he's making a play for himself.
Who was the center on so when Zion had 27 points a game his second year when he played like 60 games, who was the center on that team?
Spencer Adams or Steven
Adams.
I think you're right, yeah, because they traded Adams for Valanciunas.
So like, why the drop off? I don't know. Like,
it's not even like a minutes thing. Like per 36 minutes, like he was 29.1 his rookie year, 29.3 the year after. He's at 26 now.
Maybe usage rate. I don't know. Maybe just the offense is different. I mean, they didn't have McCollum at the time. They weren't winning as many games. Maybe he's getting less shots. Yeah, I don't know. All right, well,
I will say I want to like the Pelicans and I want to enjoy watching them play. I was just kind of disappointed from their performance as a whole from this game.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, I thought the game was kind of boring.
Yeah. Second time watching them like in the week, and the Pelicans are just meh. They're 500 basketball. Like it was fine, but it wasn't exciting. Didn't get my juices flowing, you know?
I agree.
Who's their coach? The Pelicans?
It's Willie Green, I think, right? I think it's Willie Green. Yeah, he's a former player. Well, why don't we just jump to outlook for the rest of the season then? What do you guys think of this Pels team? Like, do you think? What do you guys think of this Pels team? Like, do you think where do you think they land for the end of the year? And I mean, their over under win total for Vegas was 44, so I think Vegas thinks they're definitely a playoff team. But
I think they finish around like 41, 42. I don't. They just. Do you see this team rattling off like 4 out of 6 wins, or going on a 7 out of 10 stretch? Like I don't.
Maybe. I mean, they have the talent too, but from this one game performance, like I thought this was a play-in team, maybe.
Right. I like the under at the beginning of the year. I agree that they feel like a play-in team to me. I think people got really excited about them after the the Sun series last year and forgot that like they only won like 34, 36 games last year. They started the season 1-12. Yes, they didn't have Zion, so you're adding Zion to that mix, but like it's still a big jump to make. I mean, I think they're solid. They have some interesting pieces, but I don't know if I love just the roster fit. I think we'll talk about that in one of the sections, the trade section later on. But I agree. I feel like this is pretty uninspiring. They're playing a Blazers team that's missing maybe their, two of their best player and then another guy who's in one of their top 5 players. Like, just wasn't a very impressive performance overall, I don't think.
So what do they do? Like, theoretically, you have your superstar in Zion. You have your number 2 in Brandon Ingram. McCollum could be like a solid number 3 in veteran presence. Do they just need somebody who could play defense? Maybe like a big guy that could play defense? I don't know.
Miles Turner. That's my trade suggestion for them. It's hard to find a bit because like Zion plays in the post. I think you do him justice by giving him more space to operate down there.
That's interesting.
So, all my trade suggestions were oriented around a stretch 5. I would say Kristaps, but I don't know how much that moves the needle. I prefer like Miles Turner to that.
Kristaps playing like an all-star this year. You got to pay to get Kristaps.
Is he playing well in Washington? I haven't watched one Wizards game all year.
Washington's like 8-6 or something. He's playing really well.
That's insane.
That's so funny you say that, George, because I went the opposite direction for New Orleans with my trade idea. I was like, I feel like what they're missing is a real point guard on this team because McCollum's not really a point guard. Like, let's just be honest. He's not. And I felt like the playmaking was really lacking. So my idea, and I did this in the trade machine and it works, is what if you got Mike Conley on this team? So let's say the Jazz decide to blow it up later. They end up going the other way. If you trade Devontae Graham, Garrett Temple, Hernan Gomez, and a first-round pick, they have 1 million first-round picks because they got those ones from the Lakers too. You could do that for Conley. To me, you bring Conley in off the bench, but it gives you a different dimension where if you want to close with more playmaking, you can put Conley in there with these guys and have like a real point guard that can actually facilitate an offense and have McCollum play off the ball, which is what he did in Portland. So that was my idea. I hear you on the spacing thing. I do see how that could be helpful, but I don't know. I like the idea of that they could go big or small. I think they can't really go small right now without having a real point guard on the roster.
Yeah, I'm not too in on Conley. I don't know if I would trade a first round pick for him. Like
Yeah.
if that's the route you want to go, you could get someone in free agency like Goran Dragic, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, granted, I don't know what the price would be for one of the big men, right? But I think if you're paying a first for Mike Conley, it's just, I mean, does that move the needle? I get like, what is your goal, right? Like, do you go from a 7 to a 5 seed, maybe? Like,
Yeah, I mean, I think the goal for them is like you have your cornerstone, your franchise cornerstones, right? It's Zion and Ingram. That's your team. So how do you put pieces around them that can make them more successful?
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I mean, I don't think that makes them like Western Conference contenders necessarily, but I think it at least puts them in a better position to win a series. I think this team right now, like, I don't see this team getting out of the first round personally. I don't feel like they have the right flexibility lineup wise. So to me, a real point guard makes them better. I think for most teams, I probably wouldn't do first round pick. And honestly, maybe you don't do it, but I was just thinking because they have the assets, right? They have a ton of first round picks from that trade. So maybe you're like, listen, we're going to get the Lakers pick this year. We're okay trading our pick, adding Conley. We still have a top, it might be like a top 5 pick with the Lakers. So,
Is there anyone you can get to be like a mentor for Zion? Meaning, is there someone like Kevin Garnett, who's way past their prime, like former All-Star, that you could trade a piece for to bring in, come off the bench, maybe not get a ton of minutes, but help Zion get to the next level? Because that's how the team gets to the next level. They're gonna run with Zion.
Carmelo Anthony's available.
Dwight Howard.
It's hard because like what like his game is so interesting and like different than anybody else. Like there's nobody else that really plays like him. Like it's like almost like Charles Barkley would be the best.
Giannis for like Shaq. That's kind of the he's just a smaller version of it.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think about Portland, about their outlook for this year? So George, you said potentially top 4, but like what do you really think? Like, do you see this team making a playoff run?
I think they're just as good as the team that made the Western Conference final, like the Trailblazers team that made the Western Conference finals. So it takes some injury luck, right? But I think easiest summary is I think this is a better version of what the Dallas Mavericks are trying to be. And so it's a superstar heavy offense, high usage rate point guard, right? But I just think the pieces surrounding Dame are way better. And I think we could agree both those teams are probably top 6, right, in the West. So that's where I'm kind of landing at. Where if you look at the standings right now, like it's either them or Utah falling out of the top 4. But other than that, all the other teams are kind of staying in the top 6 range. Like I don't think the Lakers or any other team are surging. So yeah, I feel good about a top 4 finish for them.
You don't think the Clippers can surge?
No, too many games
Warriors
missed.
Yeah, there's the Warriors.
I feel you, but we're 20 games into the season, and what's the Warriors' record right now?
13.
They're not doing well so far, but I don't know. I feel like I mean, to me the Warriors are clearly a better team than them once they can just kind of figure out their lineups. I don't know. I don't agree that they're top 4. I actually think they're worse than that, but I do think they're solid. And I like your point about Dallas. Like they are kind of similar. Like it's almost like if you swapped Lillard and Doncic. Like I kind of like that roster fit quite a bit for Luka, but they're a solid team. I mean, I like their supporting cast. Lillard's health is going to be probably the biggest thing. I mean, he's already missed 5 games this year, so can he stay healthy for the whole year? But I think they're a playoff team and potentially top 6. But personally, I don't see them winning a playoff round. I just think there's enough teams that are better than them, that are pretty clearly better than them, that I feel like they're not going to be able to have the right matchup to do it. If they got to the second round, it wouldn't shock me, but they're not making a deep run, in my opinion.
We didn't talk about it, and I don't know if we have time to, but what's their direction? Maybe they're a decent team now, like 6 seed, but I don't, looking at this roster and how it's built, I don't see any construction or direction that makes any sense.
I love that you said that
really
because
young pieces. There's not really any cornerstone pieces. There's not really any trade pieces besides Jeremy Grant, maybe.
Right. I love that you said that because I had in a hypothetical questions, I had hot take should the Blazers just go the other way and trade Lillard? Because to your point, like I don't really see the path to a championship team with this roster. And I think the value for Lillard is only going to decrease as he gets older and has more injury issues. So I was like, yeah, this team's fun. I mean, they're going to be solid, but I'm like, I kind of agree with you. Almost like, what are we doing? Like, what's the goal with this roster? Because to your point, I don't feel like they have a franchise cornerstone. Like, are you going to build around Simons for the future? I don't know.
Why not? He's averaging 21 a game right now, 22 a game.
Is it really?
Yeah. Why don't you?
I feel like there's just a lot of players who are averaging that. 22.
Simons is
I
fine.
don't think
Like, I like Simons.
I'm with you, Pietro. Like the pace of play and all that like lends itself to more players averaging, but like we can't sneeze at 20 points a game in the NBA. Like that's impressive, averaging 22, and he leads that second unit for them. I just think Nolan. It's a hot take, yes. Like how many times has Portland made the playoffs since Dame has been there? Or like in the last 10 years, like a lot. I don't think as a franchise you can be ready to punt on that for, 5 years of non-playoff purgatory.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, realistically, I think Lillard, like he's the hometown guy. He's been there forever. Like they're probably not going to trade him. He's probably going to end up staying there for too long. They're not going to get any value for him. I just think, I mean, to your point, like, listen, as a Timberwolves fan, I've seen a lot of missed playoff seasons. Like, I'd love to just make the playoffs and have a fun team. But I do think, like, I don't really see this core of players eventually becoming a championship contender, personally. I don't see them getting there. So if they're just like, listen, we're going to have some fun years and then we'll just retool later, that's fine. But
I think there's always value in staying relevant for the star that becomes available because they're unhappy. Right?
Yeah.
Like how long until KD reemphasizes his trade request? And it's like, granted, you'd have to give up a whole bunch, but like, can't you give up like Jeremy Grant and like Nurkic and, I don't know, whatever, Hart and some contract fillers and some first round picks, right? And then you just have Simons, Lillard, and like KD. Like, yeah. I just think in terms of direction, like, I think that's fine. I know it's like you don't have a clear 3-year plan in mind, but like you're going to be competing and in a spot where like all you need is a percent chance, like winning the lottery. You just need like a 4 or 5% chance and you just hang around.
So. Yeah, it's fair. My only thing with Lillard is like I just feel like we're approaching the cliff that he's going to fall off, where his production's really going to decline. And so like I get why they won't trade him, and they probably shouldn't, but if you want to maximize your value for him, like this is probably the last season potentially where you can really trade him and get like a haul of picks and assets back. And I don't know, it's just a thought. Like, but I think it's hard when it's like you're a guy, he's been there for what, like 8-9 years. He's had some good playoff runs. Like it's hard to do it. I get that may not be the direction they want to go, and I wouldn't blame them for just sticking with being relevant. But I don't know. It's just tough to see the path for them.
Okay, guys, we're kind of running out of time. You guys want to debate some games for next week? Or is there anything else to say about this game?
No, I mean, for this game, I thought it was interesting. I'm curious to see what the Blazers look like when Lillard's back and healthy, and if other teams, like, is that defense real? Are they going to stay in the top 10, or are they going to kind of go the other way? But I thought it was an interesting game. I'm good to wait on the Pelicans for a bit and see if they can figure some of their stuff out before we watch them again.
Honestly, both teams. I thought I was going to be more excited by this game than I was. That's kind of what I took away.
There's awards potential too that we could just touch on. I just have one name to throw out. I don't know if you guys have any names.
Go for it.
But for me in this game, watching it, most improved player, Anthony Simons. Big fan of him. Think he's taken a jump. He's gone up like 6 points in point per game. He's being more efficient in a bigger role. So that's my call out here. Just want to give him, his flowers because he's balling out.
He definitely fits the mold for like types of players who've won that award in the past. Like he's the right criteria. He's a young player. So I could definitely see that. I don't know who the other, I know Anthony Edwards is a favorite coming into the year. I don't think he's going to win it. He hasn't played well so far. So I could definitely see him being in the mix. All right. I have 3 nominees for game of the week next week. If you guys want to pick one of these.
I only picked one, but okay. All right.
Oh, okay. Well, what did you have?
No, have Nolan. All right, go ahead.
No, Pietro, do you have one or how many do you have?
No, I don't. I was just looking at it now.
Okay. So my one suggestion is for Wednesday the 16th, the OVO Raptors versus the Miami Heat.
I had that on my list too. That was one of mine too, because I want to see this Raptors team. Although I think they have a lot of injuries, so they may not be like the full roster. But I'm curious about the Heat team as well because they've struggled out of the gate. So I wanted to just kind of see like, are they real or is that like just kind of fake noise? But I'm in on that game. My other two suggestions were Tuesday Clippers at Mavs or Monday Hawks at Bucks. I think both of those are interesting teams too.
When's the Clippers and Mavs?
Tuesday.
Hawks Bucks. I don't know if I want to watch the Clippers without Kawhi just yet.
All right, so should we roll with Heat Raptors for the next one?
Is it at FTX Arena? What's a worse name for a stadium? Smoothie King Center or FTX Arena?
I saw a tweet that said the Smoothie King Center had to go through like an 8-month validation process because they had to confirm the smoothies sold had no like banned substances on the NBA list or something. And so it's like they went through like more regulations than FTX Arena fucking went through, which
I heard that they're just gonna call the arena until they get a new sponsor, just gonna call it like the Heat House or something like that.
Oh my
God. But it's in Toronto. It's not at the
Heat House
Miami Arena.
I'm all in on FTX. Let's double down.
All right, so should we go? We'll do Heat Raptors for the next one.
Let's
cool.
do it.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, it sounds like Pietro's got to get back to work. So good talking to you guys. This is fun.